Hello, everyone. Happy Arab Heritage Month. My name is Amina Gerrbi, and I am the global co-lead of the Arab Googlers ERG and a YouTube partner operations manager working with TV and film partners. I am a Libyan based in New York City, and that's why I'm especially excited to introduce my fellow New York-based Libyan comedian friend, Mohanad Elshieky. Mohanad is a Libyan-born, New York-based comedian. He made his national TV debut on Conan, has been featured on Comedy Central, and even toured across the country with critically acclaimed show Pop-Up Magazine. His style of comedy has been described as a combination of deceptively laid-back demeanor with a whip-smart perspective on politics and culture. Mohanad has also worked as a digital writer and producer on the Emmy-winning show Frontal with Samantha Bee. Please welcome one of the funniest people I know, Mohanad Elshieky.
Hello.
Oh, welcome, Mohanad. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing fantastic.
How are you feeling right now? It's Ramadan. How's your energy level?
Pretty good. I mean, so far so good. We'll see in 2 hours from now.
Yeah, okay. But you're
Yeah.
feeling okay, like you can have a conversation right now. You ready to
I think
go?
I'm gonna try my best.
Okay. That's all
Yeah,
we
I'm gonna
want here.
pull
You just
through. Yes.
amazing. And also, so like, how does it feel to be my alleged cousin? A lot of people talk about that we're cousins because we're just both Libyan. Is that like the worst
Yeah,
case
yeah.
scenario?
It is hard being outside now because a lot of people would come to me and ask me questions about you and do you know her? What she's up to?
Mm,
Like what she's like in life, and I'm like, I just want to go get coffee, I just don't want to be bothered, but
yeah.
I've learned how to live with it.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And I'm so
Yeah,
sorry that you're going through that for being my
it's
alleged
it's, uh,
cousin. We're
it's okay.
Libyans.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
for context, for people who don't know Libyans, there's just not many of us. So if people meet one or two, they assume you're like relatives, and that's kind of what's going on.
Absolutely. And like most of the time, it turns out they would ask me about someone. I'm like, yeah, I actually do know them.
I know.
So
Usually
yeah,
they are my cousin. Usually they are my cousin. At
I
least like
know. So the stereotype is kind of like
yeah,
accurate too.
it
Yeah,
kind of stands. Oh my gosh, yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us. It's literally
of
again
course.
so exciting to have a fellow Libyan on here because there's literally not many of us. So the fact we get to do
Yeah.
this together, so cool. But to start things out, we're gonna do a lightning round. So basically,
Okay.
super quick questions, super quick answers. Don't give us context, nothing. Just like one response, quick, like one
Okay.
liner. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Place of birth,
Benghazi,
place of residence.
Brooklyn.
Hmm. Hence the title of the talk. Brunch or dinner?
Oh, absolutely brunch.
Mhm. Favorite TV show?
Succession now.
Yes. Favorite Arab food?
Macaron and bocha.
Oh my gosh, so good. Favorite Arab musical artist?
I'm gonna go with Hamid Shari.
Oh my god, I mean, favorite Arab country to visit?
Lebanon.
Ooh, okay. Most toxic trait?
Okay, this is not a toxic trait, and I know you said no context, but I believe deep down, even though I've never experienced anything like that, that if a tsunami happens, I can just swim right into it and just survive.
So like diving under the tsunami?
Yep. In my head, I'm just like, I can do it. I can just swim
Okay,
through it, and I'll be fine.
okay. I mean, hopefully we
Yeah,
won't have to test that theory.
absolutely. Yes, I hope not.
Yeah, if you do though, good luck. I really wish you the best, and hopefully your theory
Thank
is
you.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for letting us know, honestly. Okay, so macarona and boja, I think some people don't know what that is. Can you explain that to the audience?
Oh my God, you're putting me on the spot here because I don't know how to make it. Yeah, you do. I know that you do. But it's kind of like some type of pasta. Is that a good way to describe it with caramelized onions and other stuff? People need to look it up. Truly, I feel like if I describe it, I will not give it the justice it deserves.
Yeah, okay. So it's a cinnamon steamed pasta. But yeah, you did a great job though. Great attempt at
I,
explaining it.
I got the pasta part correct, which
Yeah,
is all you need to know.
yeah, for sure. Also, Succession. We don't want to be spoiling anything, but like, wow, I was crying. Okay, that's I don't know
Incredible
if you say
stuff.
more.
Amazing. Yeah, 10 out of
So,
10.
so well done. But anyways, great job. We finished the lightning round. You crushed it, honestly. Despite it being Ramadan, you were on point. So great job with
Yeah,
that. Are you ready to go into some longer questions, deeper
absolutely.
questions? Okay,
Yes.
amazing. So starting out with like childhood and upbringing, we just want to get to know you. Like, tell us about growing up in Libya. Like, what was that like? I feel like most people have no idea what. anything about Libya, honestly. So yeah, what was that like for you?
I mean, it's very hard to describe because, like, yeah, like you said, a lot of people don't know much about Libya. But for me personally, it was so much of it was me going to the beach. I'd say, I, like every time I think about it, like people ask me like what I've been doing when I was like growing up. I'm like, I went to the beach so much, and I did a lot of like fishing and swimming and all of that. And I know, like, politically speaking, Libya was like, a controversial place in the political realm and everything. But when you live there as a kid, you don't really like realize any of that. You're just like, oh, I'm just living, I'm just being me. And I mean, honestly, I loved it. I enjoyed it, and the nice thing about Libya is that, uh, your extended family, and it's not like here we were just like, yeah, I have a cousin I've never met in my life. I'm like, no, you know everyone, and you know your cousins and they're like relatives and all of that. So it's very like community based, and like especially with like, something like Ramadan or Eid or and whatnot, you get to meet with all of these people in gatherings. And so that's also like a thing I miss about like Libya, which is, just like that like community feel, which is I still have here in New York, but like not, as strongly as it was in Libya. But yeah, I mean, if you and I know it's hard because like when you look up Libya, like only like the negative stuff pops up. But I mean, but there's so much that is good about it.
No, totally. I agree with you that the community atmosphere in Libya is like unmatched, immaculate vibes.
Yeah,
Unmatched.
absolutely, 100%. Yeah, sometimes it gets too much, but because you're like, okay, stay out of my business, but still,
Yeah, it's especially in I feel like Benghazi where it's like a smaller town vibe, and it's like if you're driving in the car, people are like, "Hey, I just saw my cousin out there. Where are they? Where are they coming from?" Like, and they
you
would
know
then tell me
everyone.
other
Yeah, it's so funny because like when I tell people like about like, because like Benghazi like has like what like 1 million people. So
Mhm.
it's not, that's not a small number, but you do know a lot of people. And also it's funny because I talk to people about like how when you want to visit somewhere or go to a place or and whatnot, you don't really like give directions in the sense you do here. Where you're like, yeah, 34 like 9th Street, blah blah blah. No, you just describe it based on who lives there. You're like, it's next to that shop, third house from the left. It's the red one, big one. I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
And that's it. You just like use the descriptive language to like, give directions to everywhere.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I'm excited to see the Google Maps in Benghazi and just be like, Mohanad's house, Amina's house, the bread shop.
Exactly. Literally,
Like,
like
yeah,
you do like I've checked it, and like a lot of it is just like literally just like families' names.
yeah,
Yeah, just like straight up just like doxing.
yeah. No, and also I appreciate that you mentioned the beach and all like the positive things about Libya because it's literally such a beautiful country. And I do agree that it kind of is sad that the only thing I think about is the controversial stuff. So like even
Yeah.
I'm curious, which beaches did you go to? Do you go to like Shahat and like, the places that are on the mountains as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much to see, and that's like honestly like one thing I kind of regret that I didn't do more of, because I wish that I like went more like to the desert, like the south of the country, and like more to these like places and stuff. But like when you live there, you kind of like take it for granted. You're like, oh, I'll do it when I do it. It doesn't matter. But now I'm just like, oh man, I wish I've gone and like done more stuff like that.
No, totally. I mean, that's how it is in New York too. It's like living here. It's like, oh, I'll go to the Empire State Building sometime. It's always
I
there.
know,
Forever.
I
Yeah, I
know,
get
I know.
that. I
I
get that.
agree.
Okay, but next, I think something that would surprise people is you actually went to med school and dropped out.
I
And I think a
did.
lot of
I did
people
for like four or
like,
five years. Yeah.
yeah. So tell us about that. Like, what happened with med school? How did you decide to drop out? Do you ever have regrets, thoughts? What did your family
I
say? Tell us about
do. I do have regrets. Yes, my biggest regret is that I did not drop out earlier, because I hated med school. I think not everyone is meant to be a doctor, and I'm one of those people. I should not be a doctor. I do not want to. I do not wish to practice that. And obviously, like like not to be like very stereotypical. Literally, I only done it because of my parents, and they insisted that I do it. And I'm also like I am the oldest siblings among five, so you have to kind of like be the one. And your parents are like when they have you are like they're still young and they don't not sure how to raise kids, so they just like put so much pressure on you. And yeah, every year I tried to drop out of med school, and also like I wasn't even doing well in med school. Just and my parents were like, "No, you can't. Like you've already like gone too far. Like you just have to finish." And then one day I literally just dropped out. I just went and did like paperwork by myself because with Libyan parents, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel that. Okay, so what was their reaction to that? And how did you decide, okay, this is it, I'm dropping out?
Oh, I mean, they were devastated for like a few days. But on the bright side now, my siblings they get to study whatever they want because they
Mhm.
now my parents see that you can't force kids to do what
Right.
uh, they can't live their dreams through you. Uh,
Facts.
so which is good, but but that's why you have to do as the oldest siblings. It has to be you who has to kind of like break all of these barriers with your parents and stuff and whatnot. But they just like learn to live with it, and now they don't even think about it.
Yeah. Do your siblings appreciate the sacrifice you made on their behalf so they can live their life?
I
Do
don't
it.
think they appreciate it because they don't understand that the version of my parents they're living with now is not the version I lived with.
Yeah.
Because to them, they're just like my parents had always been like this flexible and like stuff like that. I'm like, no, 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 no. I had to fix that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that makes sense. Well, thank you for doing that. I'm sure they low key appreciate it, even if they don't tell you.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. But okay, so when was the first time you really realized you were funny? Because I feel like there's people who have personality, and there's people who are like funny. How did
Yeah,
you like? When were you like, oh wait, wow, I
I
got
think
this?
I think I've always been funny. It's just like it's one of the things. Like there's no like a moment. I guess the moment is like when you're like, oh, I'm funny in a different way from other people. Is that I think you know what I had a teacher, Dina Binsrati, who's I used to study English as a second language and all of that, and like she was one of those people who are always like really believed in me, and like she's like you're funny and like you should do something about it, and but we lived in Libya at the time, so there was like literally nothing to do about it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know, like she's like, I don't know how or what now, but like you should do something with this. And she's always like been like the one person who's like really like pushing me to find out like kind of like an outlet to use my creative powers and all of that stuff. So it's funny, like like she didn't expect that I would like end up in the U.S. and this is like something I would like end up doing professionally. But sometimes that's all it takes. Like one person who just like believes in you really, and you're like, oh, I should try this. I should do something with it.
Wow. Well, that's so wholesome. But like,
Yeah.
what about the haters? Has anyone told you you're not funny and tried to stop you in your
Oh,
tracks?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I remember like I posted like one video when I was in Libya, like in back in 2011 or something, and a lot of people liked it, and some people are just like, "What are you doing? What is this?" But I remember like when I was like I don't know, it was like third grade, fourth grade or something. We had a school play, and it was like supposed to be like a comedic school play or something, and the teacher who was running it would not let me be in the play because he didn't think I was funny. And
Hmm.
yeah, and then not to be one of those people. I'm like this one teacher who did not believe in me. I still think about it,
Yeah.
but I wish him well. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Okay, no, it's so interesting for me to hear about this, like the different perspective, different opinions on like what's funny and what's not. And I'm also curious, like, what, in your opinion, like what actually causes someone to be funny? Like, do you think you're just born with it? Do you think it's something you can learn, like through influences and I don't know, trauma and things like that? Or like, what is it? What gives you like someone like the magic of being funny, in your opinion?
I mean, I think it's something that you're born with, but it's still something that if you want to like, do it professionally or whatnot, like you have to practice it so much. And and I think there are like so many ways of being funny. I think people just think that if you're funny, then it has to be stand-up comedy. And it's like, no, I know so many people who are like, don't do stand-up comedy, but their writing, for example, is amazing. You know, they're so funny in ways that I can't even like write that way. Some people are good at like other, like they're so good at sketch. They're so good at like making like short like form videos. So they're like, now I feel like now in this day and age there are so many ways to be funny that outside of stand-up comedy that people could pursue. I think where people just what people fail to understand is that not everything has to lead to stand-up. You don't have to be on stage in order to be funny. uh,
Mm.
and some people fail in that way, and then they think they're not funny enough, and I'm just like, no, you're funny, but like this is not the
Mm.
platform for you. So
Yeah.
you should try something else. Don't give up. But some people are just absolutely not funny, and they should just, don't do it. Like sometimes it's okay to be like, I'm not good at this, I should do something else, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm not good at med and all of that. I didn't realize that, and I quit.
So I guess in that situation, if someone comes to you and asks for comedy advice and they're just not funny, do you tell them? Are you honest? Or like how do
No,
you
I
do
would never tell someone that they're not funny, because it's honestly like another thing is subjective. Some people do professional comedy that I believe are so unfunny to me,
it?
but they're
Mm.
successful. So like, so you do have an audience. So I'm like, I can't really. To me, they're not funny. So like, I can't really tell. But like, I feel like with those people, like eventually they'll have to realize it, and some people just never realize it because they don't lack the self awareness. But I think if you believe that you are 100% funny and you're so good and you do not have any imposter syndrome ever, then maybe there's something wrong there.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit self doubt is helpful sometimes.
Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
think in every field, honestly, it's good to have a little bit of that. So
Yeah,
just
exactly.
to get better and try to like take feedback and be open to it too.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. But okay, so you mentioned the teacher you had like was
hmm
telling you need to do something with this. You mentioned you knew you were funny since the day you were born, basically. So when was the moment you were like, cool, I'm like moving to the US, I'm doing this. Like how did that whole story come about? And like when did you really like say I'm launching my career? Like seriously.
hmm Well, I've so a little background is like I've never like really like said, "Oh, I'm moving to the US to do stand up comedy," because I feel like a lot of people think that. No, I back in 2014 I came to the US on an exchange program. It was called the MEPI program, Middle Eastern Partnership Initiative, and I was one of those people who selected the program. And I came to Portland, Oregon, to Portland State University, and I was supposed to stay there for 6 weeks. So that was the plan. I was going to stay for 6 weeks and then go back home to Libya. But then, it's a long story. But I used to do a lot of work back home, like like very like active in the in like radio scene, and like I did a lot of like some like video journalism and stuff, and I worked with a lot of like journalists and stuff during the revolution and the civil war and all of that, and that kind of like put like the kind of made me a target for not from not a lot of like great people. That's what I can say about it. So when I moved to the US, that just got worse and worse, and it got to a point where I was like, oh, you shouldn't come home. You shouldn't go home. It's not safe. Uh, so I was like, okay, I'm not sure what to do now, because I literally, like I said, I had a carry on with me, and like what, like $800 or something, and I was just like, I don't know what to do now. And I ended up like staying in the US. I was like, okay, I'll stay here for a few months, maybe until maybe things back home will get better, and then I can go. And it's been 9 years, uh, so I kind of like I had a Tom Hanks, a terminal, kind of, where I'm just like, well, I can't go back. At least I'm not living at JFK, which is good. Uh,
Wow.
but then, then I stayed in Portland, and then eventually, uh, I went to college there, got a scholarship, and at some point, like I took a public speaking class because I needed it for my major. Uh, and I did like 4 speeches and stuff. And then it was my public speaking professor who was like, asked me if I did stand up comedy, and I was like, no. And he was like, you should give it a shot. Like I have a friend who does it. I could like introduce you to him, and he did. And like from then, I kind of like started like I took a short like stand up class, like a writing class, and all. And then like I got to start doing open mics and whatnot. And then bit by bit I started to get more like recognized in the scene in Portland. And eventually, it got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm making enough money. And then my day job, I was like, it's actually like now, instead of helping me, it's getting in the way of me progressing in this career. And then I just quit, and I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. So yeah.
Amazing story. I still am stuck on the fact you literally came with a carry-on thinking you were coming for 6 weeks and then moved
Yeah,
for 9 years. Like,
I know,
this
I know.
story.
It's crazy because I mean, it's not something I expected. I was like, literally, like I said, I was just like, I just remember I didn't even like bring my laptop with me, and I had to have it shipped and everything, because it was like supposed to be like a fun, nice trip,
Yeah.
and that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. But fast forwarding, so you talked about how you just got started. But then you went on Conan, you went on Comedy Central. Like, can you please tell us the details? Like, how did this come about? How did you feel? Like, were you nervous? How did you prepare for that? Like, so exciting. So I'd love to hear the details.
yeah. Well, it's funny. So like the way I got on Conan is like I remember this very clearly. It was September, and at like 7 a.m. or so, I got an email from the person who books Conan, and he was like, "Hey, like I had like few people in Los Angeles who like you and recommended you. Do you have a 5 minute video that you can send me?" And luckily, I literally like filmed one like the week before, and I immediately sent it to him. And then I heard nothing back for like 3 or 4 months, and I was like, well, I guess they hated the video, and they're not reaching out to me anymore. And then and then uh I got another email like in like months and months after, and they were like, hey, are you around, can you come to New York in 2 days? Like they will pay for the trip, everything, like the hotel. There's a New York Comedy Festival, and we're kind of like holding like kind of like an audition, basically. We like the tape that you sent us, and we want you to come. So I flew to New York. I just like told my job. I was like, it was funny because I was like, I don't even know if I have PDO left or whatnot. And I was like, if you don't let me go, I am going to quit. Uh, this is the biggest moment of my life, And they were like nice enough to like, yeah, no, just go. Um, so I did the audition and stuff, and then yeah, they like a month after they were like, yeah, we really liked it and stuff, and we started working on the set. And I think one thing that people don't realize is that how much work goes into this, because like you see me on Conan on the stage, it's 5 minutes, but there's so much back and forth that goes with that, because like first of all, it has to be 5 minutes. This is live TV. uh so there's a lot of like you put this joke in front of this joke, or like maybe say it this way instead of this way, and like and then I got so obsessed with it because like I started like practicing those 5 minutes over and over again, like at shows and stuff like that, just kind of like nailing it. And you get to the point where like you start hating those 5 minutes because you're just like, I swear to God, if I have to listen to myself say these jokes one more time. uh but then again, in the same fashion as the trip to New York, my talent manager Zach, texted me, and he was like, "Hey man, what are you up to tomorrow?" And I was in Portland, and then I was like, why? And he was like, well, they want you to come Wednesday to do the show, and that was like Monday, and he was like, can you fly in tomorrow? And I was like, I'm not even gonna look at my calendar. I don't care. I'll just cancel everything. Who cares about other stuff? And they literally like an hour after they sent me like my tickets to Los Angeles, and I flew in the next day, and I didn't even like have like an outfit picked or anything. And I just didn't have anything with me, like not shoes to wear, like jacket and stuff. And I remember I went the next day, literally just like walking around Los Angeles and just going from like one clothing shop to the other, just be like, please help. And I was like, I don't. That was like the only time I didn't even check the like price tag. I'm just like, I don't care. This looks good enough. Just give it to me. And I just like put some stuff together, and then yeah, and then I did it, and we filmed it at the studio, which is so funny because the show usually airs at like nighttime, like 11 p.m. or something. But what they don't tell you is that you film it at like 4 p.m. So it's always weird doing comedy that early in the day. But it was fun. It was great. Conan was so nice, and like the audience was like very like nice and receptive and all of that. And and it was great for me. Like I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. And then 3 days after, I did the Comedy Central thing. It was just like
Wow.
happened like all back to back, which is great. But that was like less like that, because they were just like they already knew me and knew who I am and stuff like that, and they were like, hey, if you have 10 minutes and you want to come do them, and I was like, sure, you know I'll come and do that. And then, yeah, 2 months after, I moved to New York because I got this job on Full Frontal, and then I moved here, and I've been here ever since.
Again, what a story. Like, basically, to recap, you thought they ghosted you for months. They didn't.
Yeah.
Come back, and they're like, tomorrow, basically, fly out. You go. I just want to say, I really admire you for going and just doing it. I feel like I would be so anxious and be like, I am not ready. I should have been preparing for weeks. I don't know. Like, so I feel like this is another, like, a good example of when you need to always be ready for things when they might happen. And
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just gotta have to take it. Like it's like I said earlier, like it's just like y- imposter syndrome is a thing, but then you have to be like, I just can't, like I can't get in the way of my own like
Mhm.
career advancement, because a lot of people like who advance quick and do really well is just people who just like, even if they're not qualified enough, they still would go for it. So I'm just
Mhm.
like, I am qualified. Why wouldn't I go for it? Like, why wouldn't I just do it? Because if I don't do it, someone else will, and I'll have to sit there and watch them live my dreams. And I'm
Yeah.
like, absolutely not.
Everyone watching, please write that down. If I don't do it, someone else will, and they're going to live my
Yeah,
dreams.
absolutely.
Truly. That's honestly really inspirational because I feel like there's so many times where we just get into our own way. And literally, that's the only person stopping us from doing all the things we want to do. But it's like we get so nervous.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
100%. Yeah.
real. But oh my gosh. Okay, such a story. Thank you so much for sharing the details. We
Of
have,
course,
let's
yeah.
say, yeah, like 7-ish minutes or so of questions. I'll continue and then we'll go to the audience questions. So, one
Sweet.
thing, yeah, I wanted to ask you about is so when I Google your name, an
Yeah.
article, an article comes up and
Yeah.
it says comedian Mohanad Elshieky will get 35,000 settlement in border patrol stop. In quotes, I'll never forget the harassment and humiliation. I've heard a little bit about the story just in your comedy shows, and
Yeah.
Larry's job telling it. But I would love to hear more details about like what happened in the situation. A lot of people may not know
Yeah.
the context, so if you could give us the recap, I think that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. First of all, the money I got, I used all of it to pay rent for a month in New York, FYI. But yeah, I mean, so I was just to give you the short version of it. I was in Washington State, Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. I did a show there for college students. It was bad. I hated it. One of the worst shows I've ever done. Um, and then I was going back to Portland, and I took the Greyhound bus. And then I remember like these two agents came in, like wearing like green uniforms and stuff, and they asked for my ID and my identification and stuff. And then when they saw my name and like and all of that, and they asked me where I was from, and then they asked me to step outside of the bus, and I learned that these people were like border patrol. And at first I was like, man, wow, the comedy show went so bad that they want me deported. This is insane. They really take comedy seriously here. But then it was just like, I learned that this is something that happens a lot in Spokane, Washington, where border patrol just like goes in like Greyhound buses and like find like people who might be immigrants or like not from the U.S. and stuff, and literally just like harass them and ask for like their identification and stuff. And anyway, we went on for like 20 minutes, and then I had my papers with me and stuff, and they were like, these are papers are fake, they're just like, you can easily falsify those. And I had to convince them that I was like here, and like I did like through the proper channels or whatever, until eventually they let me go back on the bus. And I was obviously so upset about it, because I was just like, I hate this so much that I had to deal with this. Because like the thing is, like, there are so many days where you, as an immigrant, you feel like normal here. You're like, oh, I really like and like I feel like home now, and I'm feeling good about everything, and like I really settled in, and you just go on with your life, you know. But then you have stuff like this happens to you, where you just like reminded that you are like different from everyone, and it sucks. That feeling really, really sucks. And I know I joke about it, but at the time I was like really like I hated it so much, and I didn't know what to do about it. So like obviously I went to social media and I posted about it, and that got so much attention, and eventually, you know, with the help of the like ACLU and Northwest Immigrants Rights Project and like multiple like other like lawyers who worked with me pro bono, uh, and uh, and they sued Border Patrol, and we eventually like reached a settlement. And then Greyhound was also sued, and like the government, the in Washington also like reached a settlement with them, and they also like had to. My understanding of the policy now is that Border Patrol cannot get on Greyhound buses unless they have a warrant, so they can't just do it. So that was like a good policy change that came out of this.
Okay, whoa. I didn't even know there was a policy change. Like you
Oh
really made
yeah,
a difference. Oh my gosh, great. Thank you for like fighting that and like
yeah.
I feel like sometimes that stuff happens and like you said, it's just like such a negative feeling that you just don't even want to like think about it again or like do anything about it because you're like, oh, so I'm glad you like actually did something.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I had, and I like, to be honest, at first when they were like asked me to do this, I was like, I don't think I want to. But then the thing is like yeah, I'm an immigrant and all of that, but I have the privileges of just like, you know, like I speak English well, and I've been here long enough to know like my rights and all of that. That is not the same for everyone. Like some people like struggle stuff with language and stuff. They don't know their rights and stuff, and they keep getting stuck in these situations where sometimes even if they haven't done something wrong, they get roped into like, you know, either like admitting or like even like being in situations where they are in legal trouble. And I was like, if I don't do something about it, no one else will. So I just have to push through it. And also it was a long process and all of that, but then eventually I'm happy I went through with it.
Yeah, amazing. And I totally agree. It's really sad too to see like immigrants being taken advantage of in that way or anyone who speaks like English as their second language and just it's like you know knowledge is power and sometimes you just don't have that knowledge to be empowered to stand
Absolutely.
up for yourself and fight. So I'm really proud of you for doing that. Like thank you honestly
Of
on
course,
behalf of
yeah.
anyone who might face a similar situation. So super awesome.
Of course.
But awesome. I think I have time to ask you maybe like one or two questions. Since it's Arab
Okay.
Heritage Month, we can kind of shift to some Arab questions here. So
Hmm.
okay, we talked about Libya a little bit. So I'm curious to know like why do you think it's important to stay connected to your roots and carry on traditions? And what traditions, like Libyan traditions or Arab traditions, do you want to pass on and keep in your life?
I think like what I mentioned earlier, just like the whole community thing, and like I feel like in the US there's like this whole like mindset for like being an individual and just doing everything on your own. And I think people are not supposed to live that way. You're not supposed to live as one person who does everything by yourself. Like you need other people, and other people need you. And I feel like humans always lived as a community, and this is the thing that I like to keep going. And one thing I like about New York too, because you can have that community if you choose to, and you want to be part of one. So that's the one thing I'm trying to keep going. And even though sometimes I get stuck into that mindset too of like, no, I'll do stuff on my own, I'm an individual, but then it's so tiring, and it's so like it's not good for your mental health and like overall. So I try like to kind of like, you know, stay away from that. So that's one main thing. And like, I mean, there's so many other like Arab traditions. I'm not sure like what I'm keeping or what I'm not. I guess by just being me, I'm keeping those traditions. And also like the good thing about it is that you can create new ones.
Yeah,
So
no, totally agree. And that's why I'm so happy we have a Libyans NYC chat with like six of
yeah.
us, even like small, you know, tiny but
That's
mighty
a
group.
lot of people. Yeah,
Yeah, it's growing every day. So hopefully we just don't have
it
any
is.
drama so we can keep being friends and community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But awesome. But last question for you before we go to the audience questions. Um, you know, we want to promote you. So like what's coming up for you? What are you excited about? What should we look out for?
Yeah. So if you're in New York City, I have a show coming up on May 4th at Union Hall. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be me doing an hour of comedy. I did one in March. It was sold out. So get your tickets before they're out. I also have a new podcast coming out soon called you could do that on television. It's about uh, 2000s old, really 2000 reality TV shows and how insane they are. And each episode we're going to talk about like one of those like episodes, like whether it's like these old MTV shows, Room Raiders, Next, whatever. I think that was an insane time for everyone, and I think someone needs to talk about it.
I didn't know that was the podcast. I'm so excited now. That's like my dream.
Yeah,
That sounds so funny. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
yeah.
And I also want to vouch for Mohanad's show. I went to his March show, and y'all, actually hilarious. Like, I'm not saying this because he's, my alleged cousin or like a fellow Libyan. He's genuinely funny. Otherwise, I would not bring him to Google. I would not be like friend. I don't know. I want to say I wouldn't be friends with you. I wouldn't like be promoting his comedy, but genuinely,
Yeah, no, I get that.
yeah. No, everyone said you're really funny. And I've heard people laugh out loud. So genuinely can vouch for him. Please check him out. Thank you again so much for joining, Mohanad. But let's go to the audience questions. I feel like we have a few here. Okay. A question from Anne. Who are your top comedy inspirations? Do you have any recent favorite stand-up shows?
I mean, there's a lot of people who I like who do comedy. I like Nate Bargatze a lot. I think he's one of those people like who just had a stand-up comedy special recently on. He has one on Netflix and one on Amazon Prime, and I think he's so funny. And even though we have like different styles of comedy, I'm just very like I really like smart comedy. I like well-written comedy, and I think he does that really well. Beth Stelling is also one of those people who I like, and she has a Netflix special as well, and incredible writing and all of that. Yeah, I mean, there are so many other people, especially like these two people are famous, but there are so many people in the local scene in New York too who I really like as well, and it's definitely like worth checking out.
Awesome. Go to the next question from Nikita. How has comedy shaped your perspective and or changed the way you view life?
I mean, I guess this is good or bad, but I feel like every time something happens, I'm just like, can this be a joke? Can I turn this into? And then I have to remind myself, like, no, maybe you should just live in the moment and just let stuff happens without like trying to milk them for material. But I think, I mean, perspective wise, or like how it changed the way I view life, it's honestly just giving me like a way to be myself and like just, be on stage and like convey what I think without just like saying it outright, and just like sandwich it into like stories and like material and stuff like that, and get my point of view across without, just being like, this is my point of view. So, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Next, from Fikri. What has been the most challenging in your comedy journey?
It's self-doubt, honestly. Like a lot of the stuff, you have like one bad night, one bad show, or sometimes like even like one joke that doesn't work, and you're like, maybe I should just give up and just go on and do something else. And that happens a lot. And I think it's eventually you learn how to deal with bad shows as much as good shows, because good shows are plenty, and you get to enjoy them after. But like, I think what makes you a professional stand-up comedian is learning how to deal with the bad shows and how to just like bounce back from that and just do your thing, and just because it's very hard to sometimes, like, all you can think about is like that one bad show, and you're like, this is me, this is the real me.
How do you deal with that to keep going?
I honestly just like, sometimes I would go and because I tape my sets and I record myself, so sometimes I literally have to go and like listen or watch myself in a show that was really good that I did, just to remind myself that this is what I am capable of, and this is the feeling I'm chasing. So I just kind of like puts me right into track, because yeah, one bad show, you literally become so obsessed with it, and you're like, this is me from now on. I'm like, well, that's not true.
Yeah, no, I respect that so much because I really feel like stand-up comedy is one of the most courageous things to ever do, because I feel like it's one thing to give a presentation and like casually be a little bit funny during the presentation because no one expects you to be funny. But to get up and be like, yeah, you're expecting me to be funny, I'm going to deliver
I
now, is like,
know.
I feel like most people cannot like don't have the
It
courage to do
is
that.
it's not it is not easy. Yeah, and the thing about stand-up comedy is like every moment of silence, even though for the audience it feels so short, when you're on stage, it feels like a day.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I would feel so cringy at my own self. Like if no one laughs, like, that's like my nightmare. Like telling a joke, just
Yeah.
purposely telling a joke and then like silence. But I don't know. Yeah, that's why I don't do it. I'm glad you do it. So thank you for doing that. Next question. Okay, from Nan. As an aspiring comedian myself, I was wondering if you ever had any light bulb moments that help you take your comedy to the next level.
Uh, well, I mean, well, for me, I'll say this, and maybe something that can like people like relate to, which is like, I think when you start doing stand-up comedy at first, and everyone does that, and it's fine. You start like you're doing it in someone else's voice. You're doing it in someone else. You're doing it in the voice of your favorite stand-up comedian because you want to be that person. And I think once you allow, and also like the other thing is like I feel like there's like also like the race and gender and like aspect of it and ethnicity and all of that, because sometimes you're like, this is what people want from me. People want me to make these specific jokes because I am this and that, so I have to give them what they want. But I feel like you start becoming a really good stand-up comedian and you start liking what you do when you're like, no, I am doing what I like, I'm doing what I think is funny, and I'm doing what is authentic to me, because I do not want to be my favorite stand-up comedian. I do not want to be like, and because of course, because for some people, like for example, being an Arab, you're like, I have to be an Arab stand-up comedian. But the thing is, like, you are whether you choose or not, so you don't have to really like, you don't have to like be like, no, I have to remind people like, no, you are, just be yourself now, let people like know you. You don't have to be a copy of everyone else or like present in a certain way. People always want to know who you are. And I think once you allow yourself to just be you, then and you start enjoying it, because you need to enjoy stand-up comedy. And I feel like that's what made me like do well in stand up is like I really really love stand up comedy. I really love it so much. I love being on stage and I enjoy it so much. Every time I'm on stage, I just have so much fun, no matter like where it is. Like if it's a big theater or it's at the back of a bar somewhere in front of four people, I will still do it the same way I do it no matter what. And I think once you start really liking it and liking yourself and liking the way you tell stuff and it feels like you, then that's all you need.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And the word that popped out to me is authenticity, because genuinely, I feel like that's probably why I love your comedy so much. Is like it feels like you're not trying too hard, you're so yourself, and it's just like absolutely hilarious. And like this person's authentically being them.
Well,
And
thank
I love
you.
that it's
Yeah,
like you're a comedian who happens to be Arab. It's not like you're like making that the focus of every show. It's like every now and then you
absolutely.
might
Yeah,
mention it. Yeah, it's so cool. So I love
yeah.
it. Awesome. Okay, I think we have 2 more minutes. We can take one more question from Lee. Does pop culture have any influence on your content?
Yes. So now my stand-up comedy content, I don't like, sometimes like a bit. I would have a reference here or there, but podcasting wise, yes. I love talking about pop culture. I had an old podcast before when I did that, and my new podcast, I'm doing that as well. I think there's so much to mine there, and I just love talking about it because I think there's so much there. It's so much fun. But stand up, I feel like for stand up, I like to make it more like personal. I like to talk about myself more and get people to know me. Because for pop culture, you can get it like somewhere else.
Yeah. How do you keep up with all the pop culture? Because I feel like you really do, true, just from my conversations with you, you know everything. Like, you know what's up with Love is Blind, you know what's up with the whole world. Like, you
I
know
watch
what's
so much TV. I literally like any TV show that you can think of. I probably have watched, no matter how big or small. And I think I love it. I love watching it, and I'm also like on social media a lot, as well. So like I keep up and I like to read and like stuff like that. And I guess I enjoy it, and that's why. And I also have a lot of free time, so there's that too.
amazing. But thank you so much again for joining us today. I think we're at time now, but this was hilarious conversation and inspirational, honestly. So thank you again for joining us for Arab
Of
Heritage Month.
course,
And everyone,
my
please,
pleasure.
yeah, please go to Mohanad shows, look him up, go on his Instagram, go on his website. Like genuinely so funny. Like you will not regret it. So please support this man. He's
Thank you
awesome.
so
So thanks
much.
again, Mohanad.